There's something sitting on your kitchen counter right now that could be feeding your soil instead of your trash can. You're already buying it every week. You use it in about 30 seconds and throw the rest away without a second thought. I buried it once, almost by accident. No system, no plan. Just a habit I picked up from something I'd read and half forgotten. And a few weeks later, that specific patch of soil was doing something the rest of my garden wasn't. I'm going to show you exactly what it was, what's inside it that changes how a food garden performs, and the 3 ways to use it that are different from each other. One of them works in 24 hours, one of them you can store for months, and one of them runs continuously, set it up once and it just keeps going. By the end of this video, you're going to look at this kitchen scrap differently, and you're probably going to be annoyed you didn't start doing this sooner. Let's start with something that took me an embarrassingly long time to notice. Every food garden runs on 3 primary nutrients: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, the NPK you see on every fertilizer bag at the garden center. Most backyard growers, even without ever studying soil science, find ways to cover the first 2 for free without really trying. Nitrogen shows up in compost, in coffee grounds, in grass clippings left on the soil. Phosphorus comes in through bone meal, wood ash, kitchen scraps breaking down in the pile. You can patch those 2 together from things already on your property. But potassium is different. And this is the part most backyard food growers never realize until they start digging into it. Free organic sources of potassium are almost non-existent, and potassium isn't a secondary nutrient you can quietly ignore. It controls how a plant handles stress, root strength, disease resistance, how efficiently water moves from the soil into the plant during a heat wave, how much fruit actually sets at the end of a long season. In a food-producing backyard, the kind you can depend on, potassium is working behind the scenes on almost everything that matters. And most of us have been throwing a concentrated source of it away twice a week for years. A dried banana peel contains up to 42% potassium by weight. It also has around 25% phosphorus, plus calcium, magnesium, and manganese. In terms of what a food plant needs to produce, a banana peel is remarkably complete, except for nitrogen, which you're already covering through other sources. One of the most nutrient-dense organic soil amendments available to a backyard grower comes free with a fruit that costs about 20 cents. There are cultures that figured this out a long time ago. In parts of India, a banana plant is used entirely, the leaves as serving plates, the flowers in cooking, the stem in curries, the fruit eaten at every stage from green to fully ripe, and the peels returned to the soil. Nothing leaves, every part of the plant completes a loop. That's not primitive, that's a closed system, and it's exactly the kind of thinking that makes a backyard more self-sufficient over time. What most American kitchens do is the opposite of that. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. There isn't one way to use banana peels in the garden. There are 3 methods that serve different situations. Which one you use depends on what your soil needs, how fast you need it, and how much time you want to spend. The one most people start with isn't always the one that gives them the best result. The first method is the most immediate. You bury the peel directly in the soil, a few inches down near the root zone of whatever you're growing. Chop it into pieces first so it breaks down faster. The first time I did this intentionally, not by accident but as a real input, I dropped 3 chopped peels into the hole before transplanting a tomato. Nothing dramatic. It felt almost too simple to matter. 6 weeks later, that plant was outpacing everything else in the row. Same variety, same water, same sun. The only difference was what went into the hole before it got planted. This works best when you're starting a new bed, transplanting something, or want to load the soil before a plant gets established. The release is slow and steady, the peel breaks down over several weeks and feeds the surrounding area gradually. It requires almost nothing from you. A few minutes, a trowel, and whatever peels you have that week. If you do nothing else after watching this video, this is the one to start with today. The second method takes a little more effort up front, but what it gives you is something worth keeping on a shelf. You dehydrate the peels until they're completely brittle, the kind of brittle where they snap when you bend them, not flex. If they bend, there's still moisture in them and they won't grind properly. You can use your oven set low around 100 to 150 degrees. A dehydrator works too. Or on a hot, dry day, a metal baking tray in direct sunlight for several hours gets the job done. Once they're brittle, grind them into a fine powder. A mortar and pestle works, but it's a workout. A coffee grinder takes about 30 seconds and gives you a much finer result. That finer texture matters because it gives the powder more surface area when it contacts the soil, which means faster breakdown and faster nutrient release. What you end up with is a concentrated dry amendment you can store in a sealed jar and use through the entire season. About 1 tablespoon per gallon of soil is enough. Mix it into potting soil before planting, work it into the top layer around established plants, or blend it with wood ash or rock dust as a dry soil conditioner. It stores well, has no smell, and costs nothing. One thing I learned the hard way: make sure the stickers and produce labels are removed before you dry anything. The adhesive on those labels isn't something you want breaking down in your soil. It sounds like a small detail until you've already processed a whole batch and realize you forgot. The third method is the one that, once you set it up, runs without you. You take a 5-gallon bucket, fill it with water, and keep a steady supply of banana peels fully submerged. Peels that float to the surface and sit exposed to air will mold, and that contaminates the whole batch. The simplest fix: use a cloth net bag or a mesh produce bag to hold the peels and weigh it down below the waterline. They stay submerged without you having to check every day. Leave it for 1 to 2 weeks. What you're left with is a dark, slightly earthy liquid you dilute and use to water your plants directly or spray onto the leaves as a foliar feed. That foliar spray is what delivers on the 24-hour promise from the beginning of this video. Potassium absorbed through the leaf tissue enters the plant faster than potassium taken up through the root system. If you have plants that are visibly struggling, slow growth, weak stems, fruit that isn't sizing up the way it should, a foliar spray of diluted banana peel tea can produce a noticeable response within a day. For a potassium-specific issue, it's one of the fastest organic corrections available without buying anything. Here's what makes this method different from the other two. You don't start over each time. As you use the liquid, you replenish the water. As peels break down, you add fresh ones. Every couple of months, pull out the spent peels, add them to the compost, and the cycle continues. In the comments on videos about this topic, growers describe running the same bucket for over a year, just adding peels, drawing off liquid, topping up the water, never buying a potassium amendment in that entire time. That's what a closed loop looks like in practice. A prepared backyard becomes more resilient every time you close a loop. Every time something that used to leave the property stays and feeds the system instead, your dependence on outside inputs goes down. Banana peels are one of the clearest examples of that principle, not because they're magic, but because they're consistent, free, and they work. Consider what a prepared household already generates in a single week. Banana peels for potassium, coffee grounds for nitrogen, eggshells for calcium. Those 3 things applied consistently cover a meaningful portion of what a food-producing backyard needs to keep producing. No bags from the garden center, no inputs that depend on a supply chain. Just closed loops running quietly in the background. That's food security at the backyard level. Not a dramatic system, not an expensive setup. Just the decision to stop throwing away what your soil is asking for. If you're watching this in fall or winter, don't wait. Banana peels freeze without losing their nutrient value. Keep a bag in the freezer through the cold months, and by the time spring arrives, you'll have a full season supply ready to go. 30 seconds a week through winter, and you're not starting from zero in April when everyone else is scrambling for amendments. And if you're working with containers or a small raised bed, the powder and the liquid tea are built for that scale. A single jar of dried powder feeds a container garden for an entire season. A small bucket of banana peel tea takes up less space than a bag of fertilizer and outlasts it by months. The soil doesn't know how big your backyard is, it just responds to what it's fed. If you want to take this further and build a more complete backyard food system, one that's organized and designed to produce food your family can actually depend on, the Backyard Miracle Farm. System walks through that whole approach step by step. The link is in the pinned comment if you want to look at it. Drop a comment and tell me what's growing in your backyard right now, and which of these 3 methods you're trying first. I read every single one. If this was useful, subscribe. There's a lot more coming on building a backyard that actually feeds a family. I'd pull out a 5-gallon bucket tonight and get it started. The growers who see the biggest change from this aren't the ones who try it once. They're the ones who let it run all season and look back in October wondering why they ever bought potassium supplements at all.